Jonathan, you've been sitting much too long, much too long. Well, I definitely did not want to speak over my little promo there. But you're listening to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. My guest is someone that it turns out I've known for some time. I just didn't know know her full name. Goodness gracious! But we have a very, very good show lined up for you to talk about something that is super, super important, and something that is, of course, something that you and so many others need to know and be aware of. So welcome, welcome, welcome to Truth Radio with Gwen Azama-Edwards, former city commissioner, retired city clerk, city of Daytona Beach, author, minister, St. John Missionary Baptist Church Incorporated, community volunteer. And like so many of you who are giving of your time, your energies, and all of your efforts, your passion for giving back to the community, I join you in that and I applaud your efforts. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to all of you too who are so very much interested in learning more about those things that are impacting not only some of your family members but others in the community as well. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight: addiction, in particular, drug addiction. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And let me give a shout out to all of those who are taking part in a National Prayer Day event. For this is National Prayer Day, May 1st, 2014. And our prayer for each of you, for this community, this state, this nation, and this world is a prayer for peace, a prayer for unity, a prayer for us to return to a more humane, as well as courteous, as well as selfless, loving, caring personage that includes individuals, groups, and the world of human beings as a whole. Lord knows we need to return to some civility when it comes to us coming together, unifying, working together to solve some of the many, many problems and issues that we as a people have. And it all starts with us, and it starts inside of us. Before you point fingers at someone else, look at yourself. Before you start to prognosticate about what the problems are and why they are, to give your opinion, look inward. Because if you're not a part of the solution, you're most definitely a part of the problem. That ends my input for National Prayer Day. Shout out to all of our listeners, and as I always encourage you to do, please go to the website at www.gwen-truth.com so you can access all of those important links to all of the important resources that are available through that website that can link you to your municipalities, your county agencies, state agencies, federal agencies, and advocacy groups. You've got a lot of people out there, groups and individual wise, who are working for you, for the betterment of your community, for your rights and what some may consider as privileges, but they are your rights, for the world as a whole. And we all need to learn how to get along and work together for the betterment of all. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. My guest tonight, oh, let me just mention very quickly too, because last night my husband and I went to the, I want to get it right, the Men's Empowerment Summit at Bethune-Cookman University. Pastor Marvin Sapp was there. He sang as well as preached. Tonight, the mother of an individual who, and you probably know my guest, because her son had signed to play Major League Football, and he died from an overdose prior to actually getting on the field and playing. But she is the speaker tonight. This morning they start with a prayer breakfast. They also had a panel of by the fathers of individuals who had been killed in Seminole County and in Jacksonville, or in Sanford and in Jacksonville. And tomorrow night they will end with Donnie McKirkin preaching, as well as I'm sure he will do a little singing as well. But fantastic program. Shout out to all of those who are responsible for putting that together. And a lot of it had to do with the young men at Bethune-Cookman University. So shout out to each and every one of you. You're doing a fantastic job. It was so great to see you all in your super nice blazers, Brother the Brother group. And you're just fantastic. So shout out to all of you. Now, for the program at hand, there are many, many, many addictions. We've talked about several of them on our program, but one of the major addictions that is taking lives, destroying lives, and the like, of course, is the addiction to drugs, the substance abuse. And my guest tonight is an individual, Karen, and Karen's going to remind me how to pronounce her name. I want to say Chrapek. Chrapek. Hey, praise God. But Karen is the Business Development Director for the Darryl Strawberry Recovery Center. And she has developed several programs that can help employers as well as and their employees. She also is able to access other types of resources that are available to individuals who are trying to deal with the addiction problem. And so I always say this, I'm going to sit back, Karen, and I'm going to just listen and let the guests take over. But to the extent that there are questions that I think that probably need to be answered that you've not answered, I'm going to chime in on that. But Karen has a presentation of information that she's going to share. She's going to try to, put a whole bunch of information into the less than an hour's worth of time that we have left. But for all of you who are either dealing with addiction, you know of someone who is, or you yourself, you're trying to cope with it, or others that you know that may even be in denial, please give a listen to this program and to what Karen has to share, because a lot of valued persons, a lot of valued individuals are being lost in this situation based on their addiction, and there are a lot of families that are being destroyed, a lot of valuable productive employees and production that's being lost as well. And the overall goal and emphasis is to save those who are lost. Church pastors talk about saving in terms of salvation, the spiritual side of a person, which is always tied to the physical side as well. But right now we're talking about something that probably robs of both the spiritual and the physical. So Karen, if we could start off as we had suggested in talking about addiction overall. And as I mentioned to you, I know there are a lot of people who make this statement to individuals, especially the family members who are trying to get them help. And they will say, well, I don't have an addiction, I don't have a problem, I can stop anytime I want. So we're going to get into how do you know it's an addiction and other things as it relates to that as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Karen. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Gwen. I'm really glad to be here to share some things that I know about the disease of addiction. And it is a disease, and it's also a killer. I like to say that addiction is an equal opportunity destroyer. And it'll remove families, your job, your life. It's just can be a downward spiral. The National Survey of Drug Abuse and Health showed that there is 23 million Americans that struggle with drug abuse. And yet only 1% of those individuals actually make it into treatment. What is addiction? Addiction is defined as a chronic, relapsing brain disease that is characterized by compulsive drug seeking and use, despite harmful consequences. It is considered a brain disease because it actually does change the brain. The brain gets broken. the drugs change the structure of the brain and how it works. These brain changes can be long-lasting and can lead to the harmful behaviors that you see in people who abuse drugs. Today I was at a seminar on neurofeedback, and the doctor that was presenting showed pictures of MRI pictures and CAT scan pictures of the brain and how a healthy brain looks, and then the brain, what happens to it when you use drugs. And it's vastly different. It almost looks like the brain, instead of being smooth, or kind of looks like it's got cavities in it almost.
Oh, wow.
Addiction is categorized in 5 ways. One is compulsive use. The other is loss of control. Continued use despite consequences. So, you know, you've missed, you know, the turkey dinner at Thanksgiving because you're too hungover to show up. That can be a consequence. Or you use despite being warned that you're going to lose your job if you don't, you know, show up more. Typically, a lot of addicts don't come in on Mondays, they don't come in on Fridays. It becomes a pattern. And eventually, you know, the employer may figure it out, the family may figure it out. The addict also develops a tolerance, so you can use more and more drugs without seeming to have as much effect.
Which means also that it takes more and more each time to actually get to the point of what you consider as a high or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the third characteristic is withdrawal. So for instance, with an alcoholic who drinks and then all of a sudden, say they go into the hospital for minor surgery and they don't have that alcohol, it can actually go into withdrawal or the delirium tremors, DTs. So that's the 5 main characteristics of addiction. Some commonly abused drugs are alcohol, obviously. Illicit drugs include opioids, stimulants, hallucinogens. There's synthetics now, K2, spice, bath salts. Bath salts, when they're smoked or however the addict may use them, produces like a cocaine or a methamphetamine type of high.
And those have been outlawed. Various cities have passed ordinances to outlaw them. Our Attorney General has outlawed them, but it almost makes you wonder if each community within itself has to outlaw them in order for them to not be sold. But there are a few in Volusia County that have officially outlawed them.
Right.
The bath
salts. There's also the non-medical use of prescription drugs like oxycodone, opioids, stimulants, and depressants.
Now, I heard recently, and you know, people hear the term oxycodone and all this stuff, and then how people are getting the drug and they're selling it and everything, which is true. But it actually is a poison, like when they talk about even with the marijuana that's going to be made to be medically used, and there are some now medical uses of it. But they actually are poisons that are put into your system. Is that correct?
It could be almost considered that way.
Yeah.
Because again, you know, these drugs affect the brain. And so, you know, that's what, and then there's certain parts of the brain that, you know, you just kind of lose control. So the more brain damage that you have, and sometimes it's not readily apparent that that's what's happening, but ultimately it's a progressive disease. So you can start with a drug like marijuana that seems like, well, it's not that bad perhaps, but because of the progression, because of the way the brain develops, especially in younger people, you know, it's really scary because drugs will interrupt the developmental process. And some people in recovery believe that you kind of, wherever you started is, like say if a person started using drugs at 11 and then they get clean at 30, well, their growth is kind of stunted back to the age of 11, so then you have to do all this catch-up work. And there is ways to heal the brain. It's interesting that you mentioned that today's National Prayer Day, because I recently went to the conference for the American Society for Addiction Medicine, And there was a doctor there that's starting to do some research with CAT scans and MRIs to look at an addict's brain, what happens when they say the Serenity Prayer. And he has a very small group that he's working with, but little by little, he's seeing that the brain lights up in a different way when you pray. And so much of addiction, I believe, and what I have seen, is that it has a spiritual component. And you lose your spirituality when you're addicted. And that's part of the healing process. You know, Darryl Strawberry is an ordained minister, and part of the reason why he pursued that, I believe, was to heal that part of your soul that gets sick when you're a drug addict. So, as I said, 23.9 actually million Americans aged 12 or older were in 2012 were current illicit drug users.
Let me ask you, because it has been stated that marijuana is not a pathway drug, that it's not something that leads to something else. But if we actually continue in the sequence of events in terms of a person needing to take more and more to get a high from a marijuana use, eventually it would seem that they would reach a peak where they'd get probably as high as they could possibly with the marijuana, and they'd want something even higher, which means then let's go to the next drug. Does that usually follow?
I have seen more of that than not. I've seen a lot of addicts get clean. I've talked to a lot of addicts in the past. I used to work for, when I lived in California, I actually worked for Narcotics Anonymous World Services. They asked me to come work for them because of my PR skills. And while I was there for 2 years, I had the opportunity to talk to addicts from all over the world that were in recovery. And many of them started with marijuana and did progress. So scientifically, I don't have an answer for you as far, but experientially, I believe it's been my experience and my observation that marijuana can be a gateway drug.
And the other thing is that that I've heard, and I'm sure it's true because it's true with a lot of the other drugs or drug type things as well. As with, just like with alcohol, some people can drink one beer and get drunk. Some people can drink a whole keg and not get drunk. So there are some people who who are more sensitive to drugs than other people. And the problem is that many times you don't know that you are that sensitive person. So it would behoove a lot of people to not actually even start going down that path of drug use, especially if you have any idea that it might have the kind of negative impact that it could have in terms of totally ruining a person's life to the point where they're just, I hate to say out of control, but they don't have the self-control to be able to just walk away from it before it destroys every part of their life. And it is those individuals out there who I'm fearful of, who could end up getting their hands on, as soon as we start going down that cliff of legalization and removing decriminalizing marijuana or any other drug. It's those persons who are too fearful to try it now, but the minute the government starts to say it's okay, then they start saying, well, if it's okay, then why don't I type thing. Because once you say it's okay for medical use, eventually you're going to say it's okay, period, as they're doing in my friend's state of Colorado. But these are my comments. These are not your comments. But it just, as you start to see a lot of things that are occurring, it just naturally makes sense that some of this would be the case for some individuals, and we have to be concerned about all, not just the ones who will benefit, but also all of the population in terms of this. And as you've stated, you've seen a lot of people where that has been the pathway. And you know, similar things have been said in terms of alcohol. Similar things have truly been said even in terms of people who smoke cigarettes. There are addictions that are out there, addictions even to caffeine. I've seen people who drink coffee, so much coffee, and they cannot live without it. And when they try to go without it, they develop the same type of thing, the tremors and everything else. Some people are just less tolerable to those types of external things being put into their body. I'll shut up now for a minute.
So illicit drugs basically are substances which an individual by law are not allowed to possess, use, or distribute. There's always, you know, penalties associated with that kind of use.
Mm-hmm.
Illegal drugs are often very
You can
addictive
pull that down if you want.
and can be deadly in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Illegal drugs are often damaging to an individual's mental health and their physical health as well. So the different types of illicit drugs out there, I can never say
Cannabis.
this. Cannabis, which is marijuana.
Uh-huh.
Opioids, stimulants, again, the club drugs, dissociative drugs, hallucinogens, and then the synthetics, which include bath salts.
Mm-hmm.
Prescription drugs are becoming more and more abused, and it's so easy for an individual perhaps to have a car accident, they hurt their back,
Mm-hmm.
they get a prescription for oxycodone, all of a sudden they're using more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the state of Florida has really tried to minimize the impact of all the pill mills that, you know, were happening. However, what we're seeing is more and more heroin use.
Mm-hmm.
In our treatment center recently, we had 3 19-year-olds that were all addicted to heroin. And I think some of that is happening because when the doctor cuts you off from the oxycodone, then you go to the connection for heroin, because these days heroin is cheap. It's a lot cheaper than those prescription drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're seeing an increase in heroin addiction.
Yeah, I think that's been mentioned by law enforcement as well. Though I will share with our listeners that, and that's my other fear when it comes to the marijuana, drugs, and the like, the biggest issue right now, I would say for our county, and it's big in Florida as well, I'm not sure nationwide, and it's prescription drugs, where the youth and others are getting their hands on those drugs and using them, selling them. They're having a party, you know, with them, with, I had my friend, a psychologist, on, and she was talking about how they bring their drugs, everything they can get from the household, and they put them in a big bowl or whatever, and they have a party, you know, just taking whatever they can put their hands on out of the bowl. So it is an issue that's real important in terms of our families, in terms of the males, females, the children. It's just a major problem. I'm not sure you're going to cover, so can I throw in here, are you guys seeing more males or females that are abusing?
No, it's
Pretty
equal.
much,
Mhm.
yeah.
Let's see, last week, I believe we had perhaps 5 women and, you know, like 6 men, I think,
Mhm.
was the census.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I don't think it's a gender issue at all. I
Right.
think that, you know, when it comes to addiction, it doesn't, like I said in the beginning, it's an equal opportunity destroyer. There's women that get addicted, there's men that get addicted, there's
Rich
rich
and
people,
poor.
there's poor people, there's white people, there's black people. You know, what I think sometimes it's harder for women to admit that they have a problem and come into recovery. You know, there's a certain stigma attached to being an addict. And I have found that it's even worse to be a woman addict. You know, so the stigma is multiplied for women. However, you know, I want everybody to know that recovery is possible.
Mhm.
I've seen people that have relapsed many times. I knew a man in California that he had, 21 relapses.
Wow.
And the man died with 36 years clean.
Mhm.
So I say that to say this, that recovery is possible, that, there is hope, there is help, and that if you're struggling, please don't be ashamed because you have a disease.
Mhm.
It's no different than having cancer. It's no different than having diabetes. These are life-threatening illnesses, and addiction is a life-threatening illness. And so recovery is possible. One route to recovery is treatment.
Mhm.
But not everybody has to go to treatment. People can go to 12-step meetings. People can go to church. There's many paths to recovery. What matters is that you admit that you have a problem.
Mhm.
Denial is a huge factor in the disease of addiction. It's a disease that tells you you're not sick.
Mhm.
It's a disease that tells you you don't have a disease. However, sometimes your employer may do an intervention, your family may do an intervention, and kind of like smack you upside the head with, you're an addict.
Mhm.
And these are the reasons why. An addict needs to see it in black and white a lot of times before they'll say, ouch,
Mhm.
so to speak. So, it's just important for our listeners to know that recovery is possible and to never give up.
Mhm.
And also, again, never underestimate the power of prayer. I've known people that have come into recovery because their mom prayed for them all the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
I've talked to a lot of addicts over the years, and so often, if you talk to their family, those families never stop praying for that addict.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can never give up. The addicted person can't give up. Their family members can't give up. But we do have to say that, and I'm sure they realize this after a while when it really kind of hits them smack in the face, that there are just so many lives that are destroyed by that person either making the decision that they're going to get involved in drugs, or those who find themselves getting addicted based upon something that was outside of their control, like a car accident or they're dealing with a back issue or some other kind of part of their body where they're having a pain, ache that's excruciating, and the doctor will prescribe something that is addictive. And I'll tell you, because I've had the back pains, the neck pains, etc., still dealing with a little of that, and I've taken prescriptions for it, not that level, the oxycodone, but others that are also addictive that you have to sign your name on the dotted line for. And I just refuse to take them the length of time they say, I just, because I'm always fearful of getting addicted to something or having something take control of me, which is what ends up happening with a lot of the drugs, right?
So some consequences of substance abuse include incarceration, potential child abuse and neglect. When I worked for Neighborhood Family Sibling Foster Care, we saw so many families lost their children because of drug abuse.
Mhm.
And I think one time I asked Mark Jones of the Community Partnership, like, what's the percentage, of cases of removing the children from the home that
Mhm.
drugs are involved. And I think at one point he told me it was 73% of the children being removed, there were drugs involved.
Mhm.
So that's a huge risk factor.
Well, I worked as a guardian ad litem, and in the instances of the families that I worked with and others that I saw that they worked with as well, a lot of it was substance abuse involved directly or indirectly with that child being removed from the home. And then they work on trying to get them some kind of treatment, get them into some kind of recovery plan so that the child could be reunified reunited with the family. And that was, that's key and important. because that person, it's not only the negative part of the adults' lives that is impacted, but the children see that as well. They see what their parents go through with the drugs, and you would think that what it would do would be to turn them off from ever getting involved, but that's not really what happens.
It becomes a family disease. So some other consequences include loss of employment. You know, you show up wasted at work, your employer's not going to look very kindly to that, and you'll probably lose your job. Increased treatment admissions, increased emergency room visits, and finally overdose and death.
I will say I had a relative, well, it was an in-law actually, who passed, who managed a Burger King. That employer, she ended up losing her job because of the drug use. She got to the point where she just couldn't function. And that employer, if I were to see that employer today, he would say, oh, if I had her back, I mean, if I had a chance to get her back today, I'd hire her because she was such a great employee. But so many start out as great employees, but as they become addicted and more addicted, they're not able to hold their job. And the strange thing about this is that the brother of that person ended up talking about how she was acting when she was addicted, and then he ended up being addicted himself. And then those things, that addiction worked on their internal organs to the point where eventually they died. It really is a sad situation when you think of what could be happening as far as family members getting involved, getting addicted, and then the recovery and all the time and relationship time lost during that time that they were dealing with the addiction. Yeah, it is sad, but one of the things I was going to say too is that I've seen the other side of that with the family members who are praying for their son or their daughter. I mean, they've been praying for years. They've stolen from them. They've threatened them, threatened their very lives and existence. They've lost everything. The family members are paying, they're mortgaging their homes and everything, trying to get them to change, to save them from this addiction. And as you have said, all of that they've done, where even some of them have tried tough love, but until the person gets to the point where they acknowledge that it really is a problem, nothing's going to work.
That is true for the most part, but sometimes, like, if you do come to a place like the Darryl Strawberry Recovery Center with, maybe you're on the fence with, well, maybe I want to get into recovery or not, having that 28-day program away from, your normal life, away from the distractions, the care that's given at a place like the Darryl Strawberry Recovery Center with the knowledge, an introduction to the 12 steps, group therapy, individual therapy, looking at some of the reasons why you may use. Our residents, when they come into detox, they're given, one of the first things that the therapist does is have that person write an autobiography, so that they can get a snapshot of what's going on with the person. We say that we treat the person where they're at. Some people have more traumatic backgrounds than others. Some people, have different things going on. So we at the center make sure that we know, where to start with the person based on what's been going on with them. So,
Now, how long has what caused Darryl Strawberry to start the center? And I know he had addiction problems of his own. And how many individuals how long has it been in place, and how many individuals have been treated? And what are some of the, success statistics that you guys have in regards to that?
Well, Darryl Strawberry, as everybody knows, was a fantastic baseball player, and he did struggle with addiction throughout his career, and he actually had 8 treatment failures
Mm.
before he saw the light, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 years ago, he's been off of drugs for over 8 years. I think it's
Mhm.
close to 10 now. I'm not really exactly sure. But he's managed to put some clean time together.
Mm-hmm.
And about 3 years ago, he approached the Oglethorpe Corporation in Tampa about an idea that he had for a standalone treatment center. And he asked a partnership with the people at Oglethorpe who've been in the psychiatric hospital business and substance abuse treatment business since 1999.
Mm-hmm.
And what the COO is Jim O'Shea. He was a Pittsburgh Steeler many years ago. And the CEO is John Piccioni, and he started his career as a Catholic priest,
Mm.
and has credentials in social work and that sort of thing, and he's been in the treatment business for a really long time. And so Darryl approached Oglethorpe about starting, he really wants to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an ordained minister. He and his wife Tracy are ordained ministers. They also have an autism foundation. But their real goal is to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And what better way to help people than to have a drug abuse center that can really help people get clean.
Mm-hmm.
Darryl's got a great story. We have a track for athletes called Athletes Helping Athletes, and the goal with that is to have, the center is built in, we have separate villas, and there will be a villa just for athletes once we start getting athletes in. But right now, most of our residents have, been some professionals and some younger people. We took our first patient in just on March 14th. We're very new.
Oh, okay.
And we've had 8 people complete 28 days. Last week our census was at 12. We are licensed for 30 beds for residential and 10 beds for medical detox. So I don't know the total number of patients that we've had in
Mhm.
there, but we've been open basically for 7 weeks.
Oh, okay. It sounds similar to what Vince Carter tried to do in Flagler
Yes.
County, but they've since shut that part of it down.
Right.
Now it's for women,
Right.
women's program. Right.
Exactly. Some of the differences is that Vince Carter isn't an addict, for
Right.
one thing.
Mhm.
And Darryl is definitely a recovering addict. And he is, helping with the marketing. He's speaking on the behalf of the center. In a few weeks, I believe we'll have some 60-second TV advertisements with
Oh,
Darryl speaking.
Okay.
He will show up from time to time at different conferences. We have one coming up that he's gonna be at in
Mhm.
September. Our day rate is a little less than what the Vince Carter Sanctuary was charging. We are already Joint Commission accredited. We have the Gold Seal approval from the Joint Commission, which only 6% of rehabs obtain.
Wow.
So that is a big deal, and I'm proud to say that we passed at 98%,
Wow.
which, I've done survey work for accreditation, so I know how difficult that is. And so
Wonderful.
I'm very proud of the Darryl Strawberry Recovery Center for achieving that accreditation. It's a preliminary one because we didn't have any patients yet
Mhm.
when they came through for the initial survey. But they'll be back in 6 months, and I feel
Mhm.
very confident that we'll do just as well on the major survey with the patient, looking at the patient charts and all that, and
Mhm.
the patient treatment modalities that will pass with flying colors as well.
And how does someone get referred, and how does someone, how do they cover the cost of it? Is it something that can be covered under insurance? Or?
Yes. Right now, we are in network for value options. We're able to accept out-of-network benefits for like Aetna, Cigna, some of the other major ones. We are working on becoming in-network providers, even for TRICARE, which is the military
Mhm.
insurance. They have very strict timing. You have to treat, I believe it's 60 patients before they'll even
Mhm.
consider credentialing you. But we're in the process of getting all those in network benefits. But right now, this past week, we had someone from Blue Cross Blue Shield in there,
Mhm.
we've had someone from Aetna, and we've had multiple people with value options.
And so people know this kind of service or health care is covered under the Affordable Care Act, the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act. I'm not saying that in specific, but employers are supposed to provide, and the insurance is supposed to cover substance abuse, counseling, and then services related to it, because they recognize that this is a major problem, just like we're now seeing mental health actually being covered, which has been so badly needed over the years. So all of you that blast and say, terrible, terrible in terms of the Affordable Care Act, there are a lot of great things that are in there for people that will help to meet their health care needs. And mental health and substance abuse are two very, very important and key parts to that. I pass the time to say you listen to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. This is Goliath Radio, WLE 1380 AM on your radio dial in Ormond Beach, Florida. And my guest is Karen Chrapek. Chrapek. And she is the Business Development Director for the Darryl Strawberry Recovery Center. And we're talking about addiction, in particular the substance abuse addiction that really cripples so many individuals, so many people who are not just, the poor, but also the rich. As she has said, it is a disease that is not discriminatory about anything in terms of race, in terms of age, in terms of wealth, a lack thereof, in terms of the occupations that a person has. This is a disease that is in many times, in many ways, robbing us of the intellect, what an individual can be contributing to our society, to their family, to the community, and to the nation as a whole. So we really want to stop this thief in its tracks, and the best way to do that is to ensure that individuals understand, as Karen has said, that recovery is possible. That as lost as and hopeless as the situation may seem, if you are a person who has been abusing and you're losing, job-wise, your family-wise, your kids, your funds, your relationships with co-workers and with family members and community people, you're losing touch with yourself, and there is hope. And hope is available through the Darryl Strawberry Recovery Center. Now, I was asking, how does someone get to this? And you're located now. You were mentioning Tampa, but from where it's located, you had shared with me, and that was why I said, okay, let's put it on the show, on our show, because you will take referrals from all over, nationwide.
Yes.
And you're working to get, as you said, you have some coverage in terms of certain insurance providers, but there are others that you guys are working on to make sure that it's covered too. And then there are also opportunities for other types of neuro enhancement services, as you mentioned here. And then you have services that you develop for employers as well. So let's start first with how does one get referred, and then go into some of these other things I've just mentioned.
Well, doctors sometimes refer to the center, employee assistance professionals. You can even pick up the phone yourself and call 855-973-7333, or our website actually has a chat function on it. Our website is the www.strawberryrecoverycenter.com. You can ask questions of the person on the chat screen. You can fill out a form online. But basically, if you call that number, you'll be referred to an admissions specialist, and she can check the insurance for you, or discuss if you're going to pay cash, what that would cost. But, you know, referrals can come from a variety of sources. A lot of times it's the doctors or counselors become some of our biggest referral sources. But really the individual themselves can pick up the phone and say, I need help. You know, and we'll answer the phone basically 24/7. You know, Kelly, who's our main admission specialist, answers her cell phone, you know, basically 24/7. They can call my cell phone and I'll get them connected. You know, we're there to help. So if someone has a question, someone, you know, just is wondering even, they can pick up the phone and call us.
And do you basically help those who are at the point where they've almost lost everything? Do you have to be at that point, or do you just help people who they've been maybe hung out or felt they had some of the addictive types of symptoms for months as opposed to years, and they just finally realize they need help? And you'll take them at any, as you said, you take them wherever you find them at any stage of the, okay.
Right, you don't have to lose everything to find recovery. You know, I've heard it said that, you know, you can get off whatever, you know, whatever floor you want on the elevator, you know, to addiction. So if, you know, I heard a lady say one time that she came into Alcoholics Anonymous because she burnt the pot roast. Because she was too drunk to realize it. Now, that's kind of minimizing it, but that's an example of, you know, you can get off the train wherever you want. And so, you know, you don't have to lose everything. You don't have to be a derelict. You don't have to get to that level. You can, you know, you can stop or be stopped. You know, I know a doctor that was addicted. And, you know, he stopped before he lost his license. You know, he had an intervention. But I would hope that you wouldn't wait until you don't have to lose everything. And I feel really strongly about that.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, why go through all that pain and suffering when
or
you
put others through it as
exactly,
well.
You know, and you can stop and you can live a productive life and not miss those drugs. But you have to fill it with something else, whether it's spirituality, whether it's the 12 steps, you know, whatever it might be. You know, some people start exercising a lot, you know, whatever, you know, and part of our daily, you know, we have a daily activities of a long list of the things that our residents do, and fitness is part of it. You know, it is a physical disease. It's a spiritual, mental, and physical disease. So all those components need to be treated. And I would hope that if you're questioning whether or not you have a drug problem, that you pick up the phone and ask some questions. You know, call the Darryl Strawberry Center and ask about, you know, could I possibly be an addict? You know, in Narcotics Anonymous, there is a questionnaire. You know, do you use alone? Have you used against your will? You know, there's many questions you can start asking yourself to get clarity on if you have a drug problem. So.
And depending on the severity, different levels of things work. Now, your neuro enhancement services, are there other services that are available? Let's briefly hit on that, and then let's talk about some programs you've developed for employment, for an employment setting.
Well, the neuro enhancement services, our spokesperson for that is Jack Youngblood. He's in the NFL Hall of Fame. And we have a thing called high performance neurofeedback. And neurofeedback helps the brain heal. It kind of changes some of the pathways in the brain to the best of my, I'm not a doctor, so, but we do have this modality. We haven't really started using it yet, but we will be very soon. And Mr. Youngblood has been the recipient of this particular treatment, and it has helped him in multiple concussions when he was a football player. He also played in in the Super Bowl with a fractured leg.
Uh-huh.
So he's a tough guy.
Uh-huh.
But this high performance neurofeedback has helped him. And coincidentally, I went to a training today, and the doctor was talking about neurofeedback.
Mm-hmm.
It's, helping people with insomnia, with anxiety, with depression. And so, it's an adjunct therapy that we'll be able to offer our clients.
Wonderful.
To help them, especially if they've had head trauma. So we do have this component of the traumatic brain injury that we will be treating.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, Mr. Youngblood is our spokesperson for that, much like Darryl is our spokesperson for the addiction treatment. So,
okay, wonderful. Now then,
as far as employers, I've developed an in-service program that it's free of charge. I can come to your office and educate your staff. A lot of what I talked about tonight, we didn't get into all the details, but is in the in-service that I've developed. And I'm happy to offer that to employers to educate them about signs to look for in their employees that may be impaired and that sort of thing, because I would ask an employer, why should you care about substance abuse? And here's a frightening percentage of adults employed full-time that were current illicit drug users has increased between 2011 and 2011 it was at 8%, and in 2012 it was 8.9%, and that is growing. The more prescription drugs that are out there, the more illicit drugs that are happening, those numbers are increasing.
And we found there was a survey done on the young people, even middle school and elementary, and there was an increase in drug use by them.
Right. It's happening younger and younger.
Yes, yes.
And with an employee, it results in a loss of productivity and disengagement with the employee, increased worker compensation claims. That's huge.
Because that increases your insurance.
Absolutely. An increase in accidents and an increase in employee health plans. Actually, alcohol and drug problems in the workplace have cost American employers billions of dollars every single year. It's a very high, substance abuse has a very high cost. And so I've created this in-service. It takes between 20 minutes and a half an hour, depending on how many questions or how much detail they really want, so that they can be better educated and look for the signs and, perhaps offer treatment to their employee. Because what I have seen is an addicted employee, once they get clean, are some of the greatest employees that there are. So why not give them a chance to get into recovery? But I feel it's very important to have very strong drug-free workplace policies and that sort of thing, and I'm willing to help the employer if they don't have a drug-free workplace in place. I'm happy to, help them come up with a policy. I did some work in human resources a number of years ago, and so I have that background as well. So,
and it's to their benefit. Every employer knows this, that the best thing you can do as opposed to firing an employee who's a productive, truly a good employee, is to, when you've made that huge investment in them already, is to make the added investment to salvage them so that they can regain that degree of not just passion for their job, but the productive level, if not beyond that they once had. So it's to their advantage to check that out. And how can, let's share with them again how they can contact you, the employers or people who actually feel that they may be addictive to substances or drugs, or people who are just concerned and just would like some information. Give us the phone number and the website again.
The website is www.strawberryrecoverycenter.com. You can even get to it by putting in the strawberrycenter.com. We have different ways to get there, but it'll all end up in the same 55973-7333. We are located in St. Cloud, Florida, off of 192. It's fairly easy to get to, and we're there. We're ready to help. We believe that we're your key to hope and help.
I would agree, and that's 855-973-7333?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. I always say to our listeners that with the guests that we have in, they have such a wealth of knowledge and information, and all we can do in an hour, a little less than an hour, is to just, hit the tip of the iceberg. And there's so much more information, so much more that you can find out about the Darryl Strawberry Recovery Center. I'm just holding up this pamphlet here so that you guys can see really the great information that's here. And it says, "Is the door to your freedom from dependence locked?" Well, you can unlock that door. They said we can help you find the key. And all you have to do is take that first step. If you're the person who's addicted, or you know someone who's addicted, or you feel as an employer that there is someone who could use the help or whatever, and again, there are some insurances that will cover the cost, but you have to ask yourself this question, especially if you find yourself in the situation where you've lost so much and you really don't want to lose anymore. At what cost would you really feel that it's just too costly for you to save your life, save your relationships with your family, save your young people from traveling down that same road, just save you. What is the price tag that you would put on that, the limit that you put on that? And as that commercial says, to have those things is really priceless when you compare what your gain as opposed to what you stand to lose or you've already lost. It really is worth whatever it takes. So my thanks to Karen, who is here from the the Darryl Strawberry Recovery Center. And I would suggest to all of you who are interested to please contact them. Again, that number is 855-973-7333. That's kind of easy to remember, right? 973-7333. They're in St. Cloud, but sometimes it's good for you to remove yourself from your location and go to another place that's away from, so that you can deal with the situation. And then once you're strong enough, you can slowly start moving your way back into it with support that surrounds you and helps you to really do what you need to do to be fully recovered. And it reminds me of something that I heard from an alcoholic, and they asked the alcoholic if he was recovered, and he says, "No, I'll never be recovered because I still can't take that drink."
Don't take the first one.
That's right. And so you need to know your limits. You need to know just how much of a temptation you can take. But the strong person, the hero and the heroine, are those who are willing to acknowledge their shortcomings and then work to deal with them and emphasize and build on their strengths. Those are the persons that we should look up to. Those are the persons that we should respect everybody, but those are the ones who have really been through it and are the tried and the true. So to all of you, our listeners, I would say to you that if you know someone who has a problem, who is in need of help, please help them in getting help. I know for a lot of you, you've prayed for them, and this being National Prayer Day, we fully acknowledge, Karen has, as do I, the importance of prayer and the importance of having a spiritual base to your life. But it's important, once you get off your knees, to get into action and to do those things that are necessary to make good things happen. And that's making the phone calls, making the contacts that will get you the help, the additional help you need. Because this is a full focus thing. As Karen has said, it's physical, It's mental, and the psychological part of that, the spiritual side of it. It's the whole person that you have to deal with. And, you know, that's one of the things that God wants to do, to make us whole. And we need to do our part, and then he comes and he does his part. So, happy National Prayer Day to all of you. And for all of you, we pray again that you have peace, that you have joy in your life, that you do all of those things that are important and necessary for that type of life to be maintained. And the word says that Jesus came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. Again, until next time, you've been listening to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. My guest, Karen
Chrapek.
Chrapek. Amen, amen. Who is the Business Development Director with the Darryl Strawberry Recovery Center. Again, more information, please call 855-973-7333 or go to the website at www.darrylstrawberry. Is that right? Am I saying it right?
Well, it's, you can
Strawberry Recovery Center. Okay, don't have to put the Darryl in there. It's the strawberryrecoverycenter.com. Okay? And I will have this on the website, this program, so you can listen to it again. Or you can go on to the program, and you can, click on transfer the video of this show to someone that you know is in need of hearing the message. You can share it. That you can do without even saying a word, Just say, listen, give a listen, all right? Okay, again, you've been listening to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards, and like Karen, like myself, we're still standing, but again, be sure to join us every Thursday starting at 6:15 or thereabouts as we discuss issues to empower and inform you, our listeners. Be sure to go to the website, www.gwen-truth.com. Until next time, be informed, be empowered, stand tall for that which is right and truthful. Again, this is Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards, and like you, like all of us, we're still standing. You be blessed and have a great, great weekend. Try not to get too wet, okay? God bless.
On WELE 1380 Radio.